Ventura, welcome back. I live in Ojai, and it's a great place to retire. Someday, when I do retire, I'll maybe do more there. Great restaurants, great scenery, but what's really most active is the art community. We have the symphony there, we have the Ojai Arts Walk, basically where you get to go into the homes of the artists. We went there, probably a couple years ago now, and my wife's eye was drawn to one painting. And as it turned out, the thing that she bid on included lessons from that young man. And with us today, Carlos.
Hello.
Well, welcome to Get Moving TV. So tell me a little bit about your background. You're as we were doing the sound check there, you felt very comfortable in Spanish. Where are you from?
Okay, I was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, so I speak Spanish. And around 17, I started traveling the world. My background was music, and I studied the piano. And then at one point, just traveling in Europe, I decided to come back. I was going to end, I don't know where. So I came back, I studied music officially in a conservatory. I became a musician, and then I moved to France, number two. I worked as a professional musician there for some decade or so. And finally came back to Argentina for a couple of years, met my first wife, and then we moved back to France. And then eventually, having two children, we moved to the States. And that's when I started to start painting. I always was drawing and taking classes on painting and drawing, but it was, like in the underground, so it was bubbling somehow. And at a certain moment, I just discovered that was my nature. And so I came here, that's why English. And I was lucky to meet one of the best teachers in representational art, figurative art. His name is David Leffel. He's a master. He's recognized as one of the living masters of figurative and representational art. And after becoming his student and his friend, he's still like a mentor for me for life. And well, something started changing in myself. and as you may see in some of the images that I will show throughout, it became more a world of abstraction. Every painting is abstraction, right? We live in a world of abstractions, actually. And little by little, I was starting to change my art and became what I'm now, the abstract painting. Sometimes putting some representational or figurative elements in my paintings. You know that very well. The painting that you, Chris, were referring to is a painting that has a heart, a very realistic heart, on top of an abstraction. And basically the art is, I'm also very interested in philosophy, if you wish, spirituality. I don't know how to define it, but in our inner relationship to the outer world. And I think that the art I do is basically that exploration of that interaction, between what is invisible to others, our psyche, and what we feel like an external world. I try to play with those elements in my art. That's basically it. I think that in all my life, I worked only 3 years as an employee to someone, the Sheraton Hotel, actually. That was many years ago. Otherwise, I basically revolving around art, music, and painting, and now teaching also. So I'm teaching, I teach representational art.
Well, I know I was at your home on the walk, and there's a woman there who just started on her art, and she wanted to take your classes, which are I think on Fridays, and
Friday mornings.
they get 4 hours with you. And my wife has been through that process. You say, well, it's good for you to have a skill, but we don't want to lose what you have. So you're providing someone with tools, but you don't want them to just. Can you explore that a little bit more?
Absolutely. This particular person, she has an innate ability to create some kind of visual world that, to my knowledge, is already pretty established, pretty good. She has more to develop that, go into that direction and grow on that. So, and it's pretty much abstract stuff. So coming to take a representational, you have to be careful, because then you start changing your point of view. Some people, that's what they want. They want to add a skill to the skills, and no problem. But some others, then they will have a conflict. I had students that they will start feeling a conflict because they're starting to lose this kind of uniqueness that they feel they had before. So one has to be careful on that. And I notice right away when someone is not, and I tell the person, no, this is not for you. I may lose a student, but it's not nice.
You saved the world from a bad artist, so I hear that. So,
absolutely.
But when you say representational, can you describe what that is? We'll show examples as well. But
sure.
What does that mean?
It means that you recognize something in the image that is presented in front of you, either a face, any form, could be still life, meaning just objects, or fruits, or food, or it could be a figure, it could be a portrait, something that is recognizable. And there are, that is in opposition to the abstract works that then you do not, it's just forms, shapes, colors, the interaction between those shapes and colors, but there is no, you can always try to see, that looks like a cow, but it's not really the intention of the painter that it has to look like a cow. So that's the difference between what we call realistic, figurative, or representational art, something that you recognize as a form, and abstraction, something that is just forms and shapes without any kind of recognition. Yes.
Well, I'm one of those people who you would probably dismiss from your class. They've been dismissed from dancing classes and so forth. But what you did with my wife is, it wasn't a paint by numbers. It wasn't a crayon with an outline and there's it was a pair for her. You had a nice shadow box, and you told her, how do you instruct someone to paint two pairs that are touching?
Well, first of all, as a painter that will paint representational art, that you want to actually, your painting will be a painting eventually of two pairs, right? A surface that will try to reproduce or translate a 3D kind of reality. The problem with that is that when we look at something, we never see shapes, forms. We see actually, for my example, I put a pear as a still life, and I said, what you are looking at is not a pear. As a normal person, what is that? Yeah, that is a pear. As a painter, you are no more looking at a pear, because what you are looking, if you say I see a pear, you are referring to your psychological conceptual image of a pear. You know, that's why everybody painting the same pear will paint it differently, right? Otherwise, they will be all the same pear if it was objective. So what needs to be done is see the world in terms of a relationship of shapes. That's the first. And then you start by creating your painting, putting down the shapes that you see. A pear in front of a strong beam of light will have a light area and a shadow. And those two are shapes in themselves, right? So that's the beginning. So if you can put, like cutting, paper, color paper,
Yes.
if you put down the shape of the shadow and then you put down the shape of the light, suddenly you say, oh, I have a pear here. That's the really basic, and you start growing on that. Then it comes the color and the texture, the paint, a lot more. But that's the basic.
And the taste seems to come out in some of them as well. And that was what was remarkable to me is that you're not painting the pear. You're painting the shadows first, and then that pear just emerges.
Yes.
It wasn't there, and my wife was concentrating incredibly hard, and the pears were touching by the time she was done, but they had definitely emerged from the campus. It was,
She still have that?
oh, yes.
That's that one.
It's,
Okay.
of course. Well, tell us, so you're in Ojai, and you've traveled the world. Where else do you have shows then? And what's it like when you go to a show?
Basically, trying to, living in Ojai, the closest big art center is Los Angeles. So I have shows there, group shows, or sometimes solo shows in here and there. So my center so far is Los Angeles based. Ojai, of course, we have the Ojai Studio Artist Tour that you attended, and many other opportunities to show our work in the museum or in the art center. But shows basically Los Angeles. Yes, Los Angeles.
And then because I hadn't been able to get a hold of you, I went to something called Saatchi Art, where
Yes.
they had the image of exactly what we wanted, much smaller, but still.
The print, you mean?
The print, yes, the print was there, nice and gallery wrapped.
Yes.
So the business of art. So how you're supporting yourself, you're supporting a family, and so forth. Tell about the business of art.
Okay. Definitely selling paintings is very hard.
Yes.
And I don't have an inheritance from my family. And so I'm also working with this friend and teacher, David Lefel. We have a company that actually publish art books. I'm a graphic designer and I designed his books. So that actually creates the infrastructure of my financial life. And although, painting is the biggest part of my time. And so those two, and also the graphic design is also a creative aspect, is creativity, pure creativity. I'm not working for someone in a way, but creating these books for my friend and for other friends that I really enjoy. The books I make, I consider them artwork too. So that's in those two aspects. To live from one's art is tricky in this time and age. Is very, unless you are recognized as a famous, as very famous, and still. So
I travel some and I see art in every hotel. They have to have their art, and then the Basel and
right.
Yeah.
There are many venues
Right.
as an artist. So the marketing side that an artist should pay attention to. Then you have corporate art. That means you place your art in big corporations. You have art for decoration in houses, etc. So you have to know what you want to do. And there are the galleries also. At this very moment, I don't have any carrying my work by choice. But but we need to address that as artists. Otherwise, the most important thing is the time you spend with yourself in the studio. That is what is important. So anyone that is a young and is looking into galleries and fame, and this one 50 millions in Christie's, in Sotheby's,
Right.
forget it. I mean, might one in a million, but then what's the point if you're not happy doing it? So what's the point?
Well, Carlos, thank you so much for the time you've spent with
You're
us
very
and the
welcome.
lessons we've had to learn from you. So, Ventura, 1, it's time to get some art lessons with Carlos Grasso. 2, time to get those art books. And 3, it's time to be satisfied with yourself.